Have you ever heard the Lord, liar, lunatic argument? Basically, that Jesus was either lying or mentally unstable or was who he says he was, that was the Lord and the Messiah. It's a bogus argument, and its flaws reveal something that could change everything for you. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. I was taught this argument as a kid as part of an apologetics class, basically arguing with people about faith so that you could save them from hell. And the basics of the argument is that Jesus said that he was the Lord, the Messiah, the key to salvation, all of that stuff. And either he was a liar, that he was not who he said he was, and if he was, it didn't make sense because everybody respected him as a moral figure, and if he was lying about a bunch of stuff, people would know and would not have followed him. So if he's not a liar, then he claimed to be the savior of the world, that he might be crazy. He might be mentally unstable, or in the really unfortunate word they choose there, lunatic. But again, he had all these disciples who were with him all the time, and they would have spotted the signs of mental illness, and they would not have followed him. If he's not a liar, then maybe he was mentally unstable. Maybe he had a God complex and thought he was the savior of the world when he actually wasn't. And it was just a part of a mental instability, or in the very unfortunate words of the argument, a lunatic. But it says that he had disciples around him all the time. And if he was mentally unstable, they would have noticed and they would not have followed him. And so then the conclusion is, so if he wasn't a liar and he wasn't a lunatic, then he must be who he said he was. So I suck as a Christian in many ways, but after I learned this argument, I sat down at the lunch table in my high school with some unsuspecting atheists, argued with them, and won the argument, but they didn't convert to Christianity, so that was disappointing for me. And then some days later, I sat down with another unsuspecting high school student, and this person was a very brilliant young woman. When I gave her the argument, she said, "But what if you're wrong?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "That's not the only three options." She said, "What if the people who were writing on the stories were lying? What if the disciples were taking money from people and using Jesus to do that? And so they didn't want that to be revealed, so they agreed to this story. Or what if Jesus was mentally unstable?" She told me that she had a family member that had a really profound mental illness, but you couldn't tell, like 99% of the time. She said that people could have a deep mental illness and be fully functional, and nobody really know. I wasn't prepared for that. What she was really revealing to me is that this whole argument was based on a logic fallacy. The fallacy is normally called a false dichotomy, saying that there's only two options. This is three options, but it still works. It's a false trichotomy. But really, there's something even deeper, something flawed at the core of the whole idea of apologetics that can change everything for you once you realize it. The deeper thing that I was being taught, the thing that apologetics is based on in general, is that you can have a perfectly formed belief system that's logically coherent, that describes God perfectly well. And once you have that and you believe that, you give it to other people. You argue with them until they believe the right thing. And this is fundamentally flawed because, the reality is, you might be wrong. Even if you have a logically coherent system that describes God, which I think is problematic, you can see other videos for that. Let me rephrase that. You are wrong. Like, I am wrong. I'm wrong about probably half or more of what I believe. I just don't know what it is. And that is a fundamental orientation towards belief and towards the world that you need to have. Because what it does is it puts you in a posture of learning with other people instead of shrinking God down to the size of something that you can believe in. Let's be clear, in that situation, God always agrees with you, which is strange, isn't it? When it comes to religious beliefs, and I think in beliefs in general, you need to start with this fundamental premise. You might be wrong.